Hello everyone, I'm Edmond and I'm a front-end developer at Ozon. I implement UI for e-commerce websites on the hybrid platform, now called SAP Commerce. I also hold presentation and coding sessions related to modern technologies like Angular. And during the next 45 minutes, I will show you how to customize Spartacus, an open source JavaScript storefront developed by the SAP Spartacus development team, and how it works with the SAP Cloud platform and its content management tool, SmartEdit. So let's see the plan. First of all, I will show you how to import and configure Spartacus libraries with the Spartacus schematics. And then we will create a custom component which will correspond to the backend component I've beforehand created, since my backend platform is already up and running. And then we will configure the storefront to be editable in the content management tool SmartEdit. And then on the SmartEdit part, we will add this custom component, which will be instantiated using the workflows feature provided by the latest version of SAP Commerce Cloud 1905. Let's talk a little bit about the concept of single-page applications. Spartacus uses Angular with TypeScript. And as you may know, the most common libraries or frameworks are React, Vue.js, Angular, but also we should mention Ember.js, Backbone. Spartacus is developed with TypeScript, and any Java developers here might like this because it has similarities like interfaces, classes, and object-oriented concepts. Let's see what is Spartacus actually. Spartacus is an open source JavaScript storefront, and it is published as libraries, versioned libraries that can be easily imported. And since it uses semantic versioning, it can be easily upgraded. It contains a lot of out-of-the-box features. Also, it is really extendable, which I will show you in a few minutes. It is progressive, it's SEO-friendly, since it's using SSR, server-side rendering. It's capable of server-side rendering. It uses responsive design, however, it has adaptive design configurations. It is CMS-driven, and it is completely decoupled from the backend. How it works? Well, SAP Commerce platform still has its GSP-based storefront accelerator templates, which work like any standard multiple page application, and it renders the pages directly from the server. Now, Spartacus communicates with the backend through REST APIs. The storefront makes the necessary calls to the backend, and then the backend serves the page information, which will be rendered and handled in the front end. I mentioned that it's CMS-driven. Despite the fact that Spartacus is a single-page application, it still follows the concept of pages. CMS data from the backend sends page information, and then the page information contains content slots, and the content slots contain components. As you can see here, it is the home page, and it's a screenshot I edited in Paint with those yellow markers there, those are content slots. As you can see in the top left corner, you can see the language selector, the currency selector, then in the right side some site links, the site logo, search component, cart, mini cart component, the banners you can see below. Usually headers and footers on websites, you already know this, are common parts on most of the pages. And for this, Spartacus also supports page templates, which contain layout information and components that can be used globally. Now, let's see what requirements Spartacus has for development. In the front end, first of all, since it uses Angular, we need the Angular CLI, which helps us manage the projects, generate code. Then the Node.js, and then Yarn as a package manager. Yarn, basically, it's an alternative to the NPM, default NPM Node provides. Max mentioned the NPM package manager. This is just an alternative. And of course, on the back end, as you can see, it requires a SAP Commerce cloud instance, preferably the 1905, which was released in May this year. Since it's fully compatible with this, however, it still works with older version, 1811, 1908, however, with reduced functionality. On my local machine now, it's running the 1905. I prepared beforehand a simple Angular application with the ng-new command, which you can find the reference for it on that link. And then I have added beforehand the Spartacus schematics, which is now in beta version, and which will help us generate the store itself and import the dependencies automatically using the CLI. So now let's take a look at the application, which let's see, I will duplicate my screen. As I mentioned, I've generated an Angular application. Here you can see the app component and the app module. And there is the index.html, which will be used. I will show you the SP root. Here it will be bootstrapped to the application. Here will be added dynamically. Every page will be added dynamically. And then we have the Angular JSON, which basically is used for configurations, workspace configurations, and options. For example, I've skipped the tests in this application. And then what is important, the package JSON, where we have the dependencies and then the development dependencies. The dependencies, as you can see here, Spartacus schematics, which I already imported, which I use to generate the storefront. Below that, you will have the dev dependencies, which are only used for development and won't be used for build. Okay, so in the following, I will use the CLI. Let's close this. Hopefully it works. I'm in the Spartacus workspace right now, as you can see. That's where my project lives. Okay, and I will generate using the Spartacus schematics. And I will add the option to add Spartacus, of course. And it provides the Spartacus schematics provides some options which I can use in the CLI. I will configure the base site, which will be electronics SPA, which is a copy of the default electronics website from the platform, and it was copied and adjusted with this Spartacus data add-on sample provided by the Spartacus development team. I will also overwrite the main app component of the Angular application. Let's see, overwrite app component. And now I will generate it. Meanwhile, the packages are downloaded, the dependencies for Spartacus. The schematics already have updated some files which configured the Angular application to become the Spartacus storefront. What we can see here, as you remember, I added the override for the app component, and the schematic attached the main storefront component from Spartacus. Also, we can see in the app module, it imported some modules from Spartacus and added some configurations. As you can see, it set the backend, the base URL for the backend to be my local host, and the prefix for the REST API, of course. The context base site will be electronics SPA, which I also configured using the CLI. Here it added also some translations, the front-end translations, which live in the storefront and not from the backend. And also, this is a new feature from the 1.2 version of the libraries, which permits us to disable some features. The package JSON was updated with the dependencies needed for Spartacus. And the most important of all, these are the 4 libraries provided by Spartacus: the assets, the core, which handles all functionality, and the storefront, which is basically a storefront library with default components, and then the styles library, which is optional and can be customized or maybe even replaced depending on the requirements of a customer for building this application. In the styles, it just simply imported the default theme, which is provided by Spartacus. Okay, so now you have seen the structure and the configurations the schematics did, and we can start with Yarn, the application, to see it if it builds correctly, of course. We will be opening when it is done. HTTPS localhost, like this. Let's accept this. As you can see, a simple Angular application was almost instantly transformed in this storefront. It has all the basic functionalities of an e-commerce website. As you can see, it has the search, it has some categories, some carousels for products. You can see here also the sign-in and the register. Let's see some product listings, add to cart functionality, and that would be all for now. Now, let's see. Beforehand, I created the backend component, which will have a CMS component type. This is the back office. If someone is not familiar with the platform, it's the administration cockpit where you can adjust and configure the platform. Now let's see what component I have created in the backend. It's just a simple backend component. I'm not a backend developer. Let's see, in types. I named it promo banner component. This component type extends the simple CMS component type. And let's see what properties I have added to it. As you can see, I've added a button text. I've added the content, which will be short description. I've added a media object. I've added the title and the URL to be redirected to. Okay, so since we have seen the backend component, let's see how to create this component in the front end. I will be using the Angular CLI to generate a lot of code, and then I will customize the code so that it can be rendered properly, and to map the front-end component to the back-end component. I will generate with Angular CLI an interface. This is a recent option. Okay, I will generate an interface. I will add it in a interfaces folder, and I will name it CMS promo banner component. It's a really long name. Okay, and I will add a suffix at the end of the file, interface. Okay, so let's see the interface we just created. I will close the version control. Now, as you can see, it automatically created this. Now, we will extend the CMS component interface provided by Spartacus. And then we will add the extra fields we need. I think it was a title, which is of type string. I will also add the content, also of type string. I will add the media, which is of type media. I will import this interface from Spartacus library. And then it was a button text, which is of type string, and the URL. Okay, so now we've created an interface. Now let's create a module which will include the component, the custom component we will be creating. Angular generally organizes its code in modules. And we will use also the Angular CLI to do this. First of all, we will generate module. And then we will, let's add it in a folder, CMS, in the source. Then I will name it promo banner. The component name will be added automatically by the module will be added automatically. And then I will import this module in the main module, the app module I've shown you. Since we are here in the CLI, let's also generate the component. Also with the generate command, and then with component. And we will add it in the same folder. We will name it promo banner. And we have some options to add here. First of all, let's add it to the appropriate module we just created, which was promo banner. And then make it an entry component. Entry components basically are components that won't be referenced using the selector of the component, since it will be handled through CMS. Also, we can export it and then add a change detection to onPush. The change detection basically helps Angular to check some data only when it's needed. Let's add the flag properly. Okay, and I will add an inline style just to make sure I don't generate a file which I won't be using, and then we'll generate it. As you can see, it created a structure here. The component still loads, I think. Let's see the module in the meantime. The module I've just created, it exports the promo banner component I've created. It has the entry components defined here. I should refresh this to be able to see the structure properly. Let's see. That's it. So it created also the component with its HTML file, which is the view of the component. Now let's see how to configure the module and map the component, the front-end component to the back-end component. I will be adding config module provided by Spartacus and add a configuration. Please note that my IDE automatically imports the dependencies here. Okay, so now in this configuration we will add CMS component, right? And this is very important because here happens the mapping. I will also import, since we imported in the interface the media interface, we will be using a media object provided in the Spartacus library. And for this I will import a media module. Now, let's handle the data. Well, basically Spartacus will handle the data, but we have to add here. This will be a TypeScript shorthand, which basically will create and assign properties to class. So I won't have to add it inside here. Okay, so I will inject component, and I will be using the component data provided by Spartacus. I will show it to you how it looks like. It's a class, and it contains a UID and the data. UID will be used to search the component UID, and then the data which is important, it's an observable. Angular uses observables, which are data sources, kind of like data sources which emit values in a point in time, and then we have to catch those values. And I will show you in the template, in the HTML template, how to catch those values. So it will emit the data. And we have to know what kind of data. And for this, we will be using the interface we created. CMS promo banner component interface. That would be all in the class of the component. Now, let's make some HTML here, and we will be using the ng container, which is basically used to render a component without adding extra levels of HTML. And for this, we will be adding a condition here with the structural directive from Angular. And we will check let's see, on the component, and my autocomplete helps me here, the data from the component. And as I said, since it's an observable, we have to subscribe to it to see and catch that data. And to automatically subscribe, Angular provides the async pipe, which will subscribe to it, and when the data is handled, it will automatically unsubscribe from it to avoid any memory leaks. We will name this data. And then let's add some nice bootstrap. We'll be building a card in which we will use the CX media component provided by Spartacus. The module we imported basically in our custom module. And we will handle the data with the container and add the data, more exactly the media object that we will receive from the backend. We can add also some classes here to make it look pretty. Let's say card image top. Let's put it on the top. I will be adding also card body. And inside of this, we will handle other information like, let's say, card title. And using the string interpolation from Angular, we will add the data and the title property. Okay. Let's add a paragraph with a card text class, data, using also the string interpolation, data content, like this. And let's add a button, link basically, which will have some bootstrap classes here. Okay, and here we will be adding the URL. And inside of it, of course, let's add the button text, which we'll receive. Okay, so that will be the coding part. We created a component which will communicate once we instantiate that component type from the backend. However, in order to be able to edit the storefront we just created and modified, we have to add some dependencies to link it to SmartEdit, the content management tool. And for this, I will use web application injector. This is a JavaScript which has to be injected. It is also used in the older versions of the platform. And we will add it here to sources. Let's add it like this. And also we have to add it as an asset in the Angular JSON so that when it's building the application, it knows that it has this asset. We will reference it here, web application injector. Didn't make a typo, that's good. And then in the index HTML, we'll have to add another condition, basically the script, which will have an ID of SmartEdit injector. Then the source, the web application injector. And to allow the storefront to be editable by the backend, we will add the data SmartEdit allow origin. And I will add the local host I'm running on in the backend. Now let's build the application with yarn start. We are building the application now just to make sure it doesn't have any compiling errors, because we still won't see the component. It compiles successfully, which is good. And then let's see a few more slides to talk about a little bit SmartEdit. Perfect. Okay, so SAP Commerce offers this content management tool called SmartEdit, which allows basically content editors to manage their websites, and you will see that it's in a very interactive way. Basically, you will drag and drop the component type and instantiate it. In SmartEdit, you can add and clone pages, you can add components, you can synchronize content catalogs, the defaults being staged and online. And then you can add restrictions. And I mentioned the latest feature from the 1905 platform, which is workflows. And also, in this version, you can see the status of a page. So it provides page status management. How workflows work, the feature I will be presenting today. This is a diagram. So you can see that there are 4 types of users, which are set and have different permissions. And then on the backend part, they have assigned some tasks that they will perform. For example, the CMS editor will be able to start a workflow, add a component, for example, what we will be doing here. Then he can send the page edited with the component to a CMS reviewer who can reject or approve that modification. The CMS reviewer also can send it to a CMS translator. And then once it is also translated, it will be back to the CMS reviewer, who will send the modification to the CMS publisher, who will basically sync the staged catalog modifications to the online. And then we will see on the online catalog, on the storefront, the actual component. Let's see. I will duplicate again my screen. I will show you around a little bit the SmartEdit content management tool. I think I have a link here, localhost/SmartEdit. And for now, I will log in with the admin account to have ultimate power. And as you can see, here you can select the website you are going to edit. You can see the catalogs, the staged and the online. It is recommended, of course, to always work on the stage first and then to sync the modifications to the online catalog. Here you can sync the whole content catalog. And then also you can synchronize components, content slots from the preview. As you can see here, once the modification will be done, you have to synchronize it. And let's see, as you can see, here are the content slots I mentioned you about in that screenshot with the yellow carrot. Here it looks prettier. Okay, so also here you have the sync of a page level sync. And then here you will be able to add the component, instantiate the component type we've just created in the backend and then the front end. Okay, with the admin account, I will create really fast a demo page to see more clearly the component we just created. This will be a content page, and then we will add a template. I mentioned about templates. Let's make it a content page 1 template, make it a primary, and let's name it demo page. Add a label for it. The label will be used to go to the route, to the URL. And the page title, let's also name it demo page. This is how an empty page looks like, with a header and footer and just the title I've just added there. And in order to have access to it in the front end, of course, here is the page status management. You have to update it to ready to sync because we are ready to sync this page. And then we will add the component with the workflow feature. I will sync this page. And let's see if we are able to go to that page. Now the page we just created, it's also visible in the storefront. Great. Now let's log out. And we will log in with the CMS editor. Which has some restrictions. And we will go and search for the page we've just created. Demo page. Okay, this was the one. Now, as I mentioned, here you can add the component. And here we have the component types. Let's look for it, and this is it, the promo banner component. We just drag and drop. And let's see, we will name it TechIT component. The button text, let's see. Let's shop, since it's an e-commerce website. The content message, let's add autumn promotions are here. Let's correct this typo. Let's add a nice media. And this would be the default media from the platform. Let's add a title. Autumn is here. And the URL, let's try to add a simple page from here, category pay listing. We will be adding here. Okay, and now let's just save it. As you can see, the component was already rendered in SmartEdit, but don't forget that we are on the stage catalog. So it won't be visible here on the demo page. Now, in order to start the workflow, let's do this. And I'm not sure how much time do we have. Okay, so we will go on the short version. Just a page approval, simple page approval workflow. And we will skip the translation because it would be a lot to translate. And I don't know German, Japanese, and Chinese, which are the default languages set on my platform now. Let's go with the page approval, and add a message, please approve. Please review, first of all, these modifications. And now we have started the workflow. As you can see, also the page status have changed into in progress. And now we will log out. I know this might be, I don't know, boring for one person to do that. However, please remember that these users can be given to anyone. In a big business, you will organize these workflows and you will add the CMS editor user to a person and the reviewer to another person, to translations, maybe outsource it on different parts of the world depending on how many languages your website will support, and then the publisher. Okay, so I will log in now with the CMS reviewer. And the reviewer will have an inbox. As you can see here, he has a task of review page. Now, he reviews the page. And then this user has the capability of approving or rejecting. And now, for now, it looks really nice, so let's approve it and send it to publishing. Add a message for the publisher. Okay, and we will log out and sign in with the CMS publisher user. And as previously we saw, the user will have a message here, a task. And will be able to publish the page. Let's make sure. This is the storefront now uses the online catalog, and in SmartEdit we are still on the stage catalog, and once we are publishing this page, published page, shouldn't take too long. Let's see. We have added now the component to the storefront. The publisher synced the staged catalog to the online catalog, and now the storefront has the component on it. That would be all with SmartEdit. Let's go here. Now, let's make a summary of this. Spartacus is a modern alternative to the GS-based accelerator templates I've mentioned. It's really easy to set up. As you have seen, I only use command line to generate and configure the store to get it up and running. It's extendable, as you have seen. This is just a basic component I've just created. Spartacus offers the possibility to extend services, to extend more complex components, to add outlets, to add extra information for a component they already have in their libraries before and after the component. And also decoupling makes the storefront easier to upgrade, and not just the storefront. It's independent from the backend. Once you update the backend, you can separately upgrade whenever it has available libraries, for example, Spartacus. And of course, it connects to SAP Commerce out of the box. And that will be all. Thank you.
Thanks, Edmond. Do we have questions?
Okay. Hi. Thanks for the presentation. My first question would be, how easy it is to get data into these components, but not data that is stored in SAP Commerce Cloud? So if you have external feeds or external integration, are you able to feed the data from there and expose it with the Angular components that you just showed?
You are meaning with an ERP, so basically the backend would be still the SAP Commerce, or?
No, the backend is a Java application that has nothing to do
Okay.
and just it's exposed some data via REST API, for example, and you want to show that data in your storefront through a component. Do they have support for this?
Well, basically Spartacus provides these endpoints, so he makes requests to this SAP Commerce Cloud, and once you have on that external backend REST API, if you configure them correctly and you have the CMS data, etc., yes, it's possible. But out of the box, as I mentioned, it fully works with the SAP Commerce platform. But it is possible. I might say it might be a little bit hard for the backend, of course, but it is possible.
Okay, and one more still, maybe, have you tried, or how easy do you think it will be to connect Spartacus with Adobe CMS and SmartEdit? Do they at least offer the infrastructure so that something like this might be possible, or how do you see this? Because a lot of clients use Adobe. And
well, I'm not that familiar with Adobe, so I'm not sure if I can answer this, but we can talk maybe in the coffee break and we will share some information maybe and see how would that work, or if would that work.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you too.
Other questions?
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I have a question, namely, have you tried using Spartacus as a single page app? Like, I know you said, okay, it's a single page app, but then you mentioned multiple page templates, multiple pages, but this is not as it's been advertised. It's been advertised as a single page app, like one page, and everything like dynamic and so forth.
Well, just to make sure, I will explain. So I mentioned the multiple page applications. Those are the GSP-based old templates, which hybrid SAP Commerce Cloud still supports. And the Spartacus, it's an alternative, and it is a single page application. As you have seen, it uses only an index HTML, which will be dynamically rewritten. It still follows the concept of pages, but it uses to dynamically rewrite those pages. And while you are navigating, you are using, for example, the Angular router module for navigation, you rewrite the whole page without reloading the page. So technically speaking, that would be dynamically rewritten page, but multiple page applications serve the pages from the server directly. This Spartacus rewrites it dynamically. I'm not sure if I explained clear.
I'm not sure if I got it. So basically you are saying it is only one page. It's just that it's configured as part of multiple pages, and depending on the request, it's rendering components from one or another page?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
And also updates the URL. So when you visit that URL, you will still have the feeling of a page. However, it is a single page with a different URL and different components based on the configurations from the CMS.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Thanks again, Edmond.
Thank you too.